Thursday. At 11:30 there came the sound of heavy guns firing in the direction of Sackville Street. I went to the roof and remained there for some time. From this height the sounds could be heard plainly. There was sustained firing along the whole central line of the city, from the Green down to Trinity College and from thence to Sackville Street, and the report of the various types of arm could be easily distinguished. There were rifles, machine guns and very heavy cannon. There was another sound which I could not put a name to, something that coughed out over all the other sounds, a short, sharp bark, or rather a short noise, something like the popping of a tremendous cork. I met Douglas Hyde. His chief emotion is one of astonishment at the organising powers displayed by the volunteers. We have exchanged rumours and found that our equipment in this direction is almost identical. He says Sheehy Skeffington has been killed, that he was arrested in a house wherein arms were found and was shot out of hand. I hope this is another rumour, for, so far as my knowledge of him goes, he was not with the volunteers, and it is said that he was antagonistic to the forcible methods for which the volunteers stood. But the tale of his death is so persistent that one is inclined to believe it. He was the most absurdly courageous man I have ever met with or heard of. He has been in every trouble that has touched Ireland these 10 years back, and he has always been in on the generous side, therefore and naturally on the side of that was unpopular and weak. It would seem indeed that a cause had only to be weak to gain his sympathy, and his sympathy never stayed at home. There are so many good people who sympathise with this or that cause, and having given that measure of their emotion, they give no more of it or of anything else. But he rushed instantly to the street. A large stone, the lift of a footpath, the base of a statue, any place and every place was for him a pulpit, and in the teeth of whatever oppression or disaster or power, he said his say. There are multitudes of men in Dublin of all classes and creeds who can boast that they kicked Sheehy Skeffington, or they struck him on the head with walking sticks and umbrellas, or that they smashed their fists into his face and jumped on him when he fell. It is by no means an exaggeration to say that these things were done to him, and it is true that he bore ill will to no man, and that he accepted blows and indignities and ridicule with the pathetic candour of a child who is disguised as a man and whose disguise cannot come off. His tongue, his pen, his body, all that he had and had hoped for were at the immediate service of whoever was bewildered or oppressed. He has been shot. Other men have been shot, but they faced the guns knowing that they faced justice, however stern and oppressive, and that what they had engaged to confront was before them. He had no such thought to soothe from his mind anger or unforgiveness. He, who was a pacifist, was compelled to revolt to his last breath, and on the instruments of his end he must have looked as on murderers. I am sure that to the end he railed against oppression, and that he fell marvelling that the world can truly be as it is. With his death there passed away a brave man and a clean soul. Later on this day I met Mrs. Sheehy Skeffington in the street. She confirmed the rumour that her husband had been arrested on the previous day, but further than that she had no news. So far as I know, the sole crime of which her husband had been guilty was that he had called for a meeting of the citizens to enrol special constables and prevent looting. Among the rumours it was stated with every accent of certitude that Madame Markovitch had been captured in George's Street and taken to the castle. It was also current that Sir Roger Casement had been captured at sea and had already been shot in the Tower of London. The names of several volunteer leaders are mentioned as being dead. But the surmise that steals timidly from one mouth flies boldly as a certitude from every mouth that repeats it, and truth itself would now be listened to only with a gossip's ear, but no person would believe a word of it. This night also was calm and beautiful, but this night was the most sinister and woeful of those that has passed. The sound of artillery, of rifles, machine guns, grenades did not cease even for a moment. From my window I saw a red flare that crept to the sky and stole over it and remained there glaring. The smoke reached from the ground to the clouds, and I could see great red sparks go soaring to enormous heights, while always in the calm air, hour after hour, there was the buzzing and rattling and the thudding of guns, and but for the guns, silence. It is in a dead silence this insurrection is being fought, and one imagines what must be the feeling of these men, young for the most part and unused to violence, who are submitting silently to the crash and flame and explosion by which they are surrounded.